Chapter 22. The Veiled Mother. Echoes of the divine feminine and the silent war on sacred power. She was the first to bleed, the first to sing, the first to know. But her name was taken, her face rewritten, her temple buried beneath a palace of rules. Lost Hymn of Inanna. Every empire has a scapegoat. Every system that forgets its soul begins by exiling its mother. That's where this chapter begins, not just with a goddess lost, but with a world that has built itself on her absence. We've traced soul codes and elemental memory. We've remembered the fracturing of the spirit-body bond. We've seen how the sacred was mechanized, how belief became obedience, and how mystery was turned into empire. But beneath all of it, beneath the distorted Cain archetype, beneath East and West, beneath hierarchy, surveillance, and spiritual decay, there is one original forgetting. One sacred force turned into myth, made palatable, hidden in plain sight. The divine feminine. She was once the source of all. Earth, moon, womb, song. Before there was dogma, there was her body. Before there were temples of stone, there was soil and blood and starlight. In Sumer, Inanna ruled with power and erotic wisdom. In Egypt, Hathor was the keeper of the sky and the voice of celebration. In Babylon, Ishtar held war and love in equal hands. In Greece, Gaia birthed gods. In the Indus Valley, fertility figures spoke in gesture and curve, not text. But as cities grew, as thrones rose, as lineage passed from matrilineal to patrilineal, she was fractured. Not just removed, but rewritten. The goddess became a saint, a virgin, a warning. The oracle became a hysteric. The midwife became a witch. And the primal feminine, the wild, the bleeding, the dreaming, was made invisible. Even in the lands where her memory remained, it was often tamed. Shakti was still worshipped, but Shakti without Kali, without full spectrum, became manageable. Yin, once the cosmic partner of Yang, became passive and inferior as Taoism was folded into political ideology. Mary Magdalene, once a teacher beside Christ, was labeled a prostitute to protect patriarchal control. The earth was no longer divine. She became resource. This forgetting reshaped more than myth. It reshaped consciousness. When the feminine was severed from reverence, the body became shameful. The soul became masculine. Emotions became weakness. Intuition became delusion. Life itself, once cyclical and sacred, became linear, measured, and monetized. And so began the great exile, not just of women, but of a way of being. Even in systems meant to honor balance, her voice was dulled. In China, Taoism's original reverence for non-action, mystery, and earth rhythms was rewritten into social hierarchy through Confucian reform. Harmony became obedience. Spirit became surveillance. In Japan, the kami were preserved, but through glass, behind protocol, with little initiation. The feminine became ritualized, not embodied. She was everywhere, but nowhere. The mystic became a mascot. And in the West, the goddess was turned into myth, then into metaphor, then erased. She became art, not law. She became symbol, not sovereign. But she never left. Even when her name was forbidden, she returned in other forms. In lullabies sung through generations of trauma. In bloodlines that carried her through DNA and dream. In women who cried for no reason during moon cycles. In men who wept at beauty and didn't know why. In gardens, in miscarriages, in resistance. She moved through the underworld, just like Inanna, stripping off layer after layer until the world was ready to see her again. Today, her memory rises not through institutions, but through embodiment. Through birth work, trauma healing, plant medicine, sacred sensuality, ecological activism. Through movements that value care, community, emotion, and rest, not as weakness, but as wisdom. The divine feminine returns not through conquest, but through remembrance. Not as an identity, but as a frequency. She is not just about women. She is the spiral in the seed, the womb of space-time, the hidden law beneath the visible one. She is chaos that births cosmos, blood that speaks prophecy, silence that teaches truth. She is not sentimental. She is sacred. To reclaim her is not to return to a matriarchy. It is to restore the lost balance at the heart of the world. She does not need to rise alone. She rises to meet the part of the masculine that remembers how to kneel in awe, not in submission, but in reverence. She returns to complete the dance. But before that dance can resume, the silence must be broken. The centuries of exile must be named. The temples must be rebuilt, not with stone, but with breath, with choice, with tears that remember. Because no system can hold the soul if it has forgotten her. No theory, no scripture, no governance can stand if it has severed itself from the source of life. And so this chapter becomes a reckoning, a prayer, a returning. Because the next healing cannot come until we understand what was lost. Not just who was lost, but why. Why her wisdom was feared. Why her wildness was caged. Why her blood was made taboo. Why her voice was turned into madness, myth, or martyrdom. And then, what we do with that knowing. Because the divine masculine, too, has been wounded, and his healing depends on hers. The next chapter belongs to him, not the corrupted Cain, but the true protector. The one who remembers how to build temples, not empires. The one who remembers how to stand beside, not above. But for now, she waits. Not as victim. Not as ghost. As root. As rhythm. As the memory you feel in your chest when you're finally still. She was never gone. She was simply veiled. And you, dear soul, are lifting the veil.